Good evening, Cher.
Good evening, Coach.
Pressure ako kasi may mga nagme-message na eh. Nakaabang daw sila dahil paborito nila yung guest natin tonight.
Ay, oo.
Ayan. So,
Lagi
Miss
maraming
Peachy,
nanonood niyan.
Miss Peachy talagang nag-follow up. Baka, siyempre, 8:28 na raw. Usually, 8:25. Naka-live na tayo. So, good evening, partner.
Good evening, partner.
It's another Tuesday night and we're excited sa ating episode ngayong gabi dahil very, anticipated as going to be very insightful, ano?
Yes. At in preparation, tayo? Philippine colors tayo tonight.
Oo nga eh. Philippine colors eh. Parang maaga tayo sa June, no?
Oo. Hindi, Labor Day. Pasok pa rin naman.
Pasok pa rin. May meron pa rin relevance. Well, yung last episode was very, punong-puno. Again, nag-overtime tayo ron. Pero, meron maganda yung episode last time. Maganda yung feedback. Maraming salamat po sa mga nagbibigay ng kanilang comments and feedback. Napakahalaga po nun para mapatuloy nating ma-improve yung ating show. And tonight, excited tayo because yung mga kaibigan natin, mga balik guest to eh. Balik guesting sa 49th episode naman natin yung gabi. No? Isang episode na naka 50 ka na, Cher.
Oo, golden!
Actually, technically, hindi sa inaasar kita, naka 49 ka pa lang. Kasi, may isang episode na wala ka eh.
Yung episode 2, Oo.
Asar eh, no? Actually, ako yung inasar doon dahil ako yung na-pressure noon, no? Yung mga panahon nagsisimula pa lang tayo. Episode 2 yata yun.
Episode 2.
Episode 2. So, nakakatuwa lang po at maraming salamat sa lahat po ng sumusuporta, nag-share, no? Dati nag-episode tayo, mga 10 lang tayo, no? Ngayon, last week we had 15,000 views and the week prior it was like 13,000 views. So maraming salamat po. Lumalaki po yung ating community, no? Yung ating community library.
Yes.
Diba? Restaurant community library.
Oo.
Dito po ay walang limit, no? Pwede po kayong kumuha. Wala po limit na 2 tray ng itlog dito, no? Pwede nyo po panoorin na unlimited times, no? Nasa YouTube po yan, nasa Facebook, no? So maraming salamat syempre sa ating mga kasama, si Bianca Lagdameo at si Cheryl Gose, aka Cher, no? Sa kanilang pag behind the scenes, no? Aside from nakikita nyo palabas, every week meron pong mga preparasyon yan behind the scenes. So maraming salamat. Sa lahat ng nag-guest, no? Sa lahat ng nag-guest sa atin. Sige, mag-recap tayo kung ano nangyari last week.
Ayan, ang as in tagos sa puso yung last week, ramdam na ramdam ko eh. So ang ating top 3 takeaways. Yung first point natin is yung achieving brand love requires passion. Start with the mastery of your community to build a strong base powered by consumer insight.
No. Siyempre pa, yung relevance ng salitang community sa panahon ng pandemya, hindi natin matatawaran. 1 taon na tayong nakasandig or we're depending on our communities. No? Maraming layers yung community natin. But very important, yung understanding natin, yung appreciation natin of our community. Kahit sabi ko nga last week, ang ganda na-excite ako because punong-puno na naman yung notebook ko dahil para yung marketing yung kasama ko na si Cher, of course, is a marketing subject matter expert also, and our guest, si Mark Gamboa. Tapos, syempre, dumating pa si Adam, no? So, ang dami pong magandang feedback and we appreciate that. Na-appreciate nila na punong-puno yung ating episode ng mga takeaways, no? Kasi itong mga panahon na to, naglull, no? Nagkaroon ng break sa momentum ng food industry because nga nagkaroon ng bubble, so from the Holy Week bubble, tapos nagkaroon ng ECQ, tapos MECQ without dine-in. And now we're happy na meron ng 10% na dine-in. So kahit papaano makakabuelo na tayo. And preparation for Mother's Day, syempre upcoming yan. Big weekend yan para sa mga restaurants.
Ayun. At saka maganda nga follow up yung natin, yung point 1 kasi sentiments eh. So parang ganun yung ating papasukin. So second point, importante pa rin point, listen. Develop, yung favorite kong word na ginamit natin sa episode is relevance with your core brand proposition via authenticity and empathy with your market. Budget is an opportunity to be creative and not a limitation.
Actually, dyan maraming nagbigay ng magandang feedback tungkol dun sa mga sinabi ni Mr. Mark Gamboa. Siyempre, pag meron tayong ginigest na medyo dekada na sa industriya, no? Yung mga batang manonood, hindi na sila makarelate. Ano yung pinapalaman sa dyaryo? 'Di ba? Ano yung ginagawa? So yung mga panahon, siyempre, that you work for a company na hindi pa ganun kalaki yung budget, then you see it grow and it becomes bigger with your help as a marketer, no? Yun yung mga kwentong hindi makatatawaran. Kaya ini-encourage ko yung mga tao na, the people I talked to last week to watch the episode, lalo kung nasa marketing field ka. Kasi ang daming senior ni Mark about actual experiences. Hindi mo maano yun Hindi mo mapapalitan yun. Lalo yung mga dating experiences na hindi mo na mare-replicate ngayon. Kasi ngayon marami ng shortcuts Di ba? So, kinento niya, senior niya, lahat ng mga style na talagang grassroots, no? Talagang paggising ng madaling araw, no? And how they would work the market and really susuyurin yun ang tawag doon no? Susuyurin mo yung trading area mo. I think that's a great tip para sa ating mga nag-online business ngayon, no? Hindi po nangangahulugan na porque may social media or merong Google Map, Google Earth. Importante pa rin po na lumiikot tayo sa ating trading area. Para yung marketing natin talagang grounded on no? Relationships. Diba? Yung relevance, yung sinabi mo kanina, no? Relevance, no? Relationships, yung kaakibat na salita.
Tapos yung last point natin, yung new marketing normal. Ako rin, sobra ako nag-take note dito, yung bagong 4Ps at saka 4Cs na in-introduce ni Mark. Yung people, gusto ko yung hire your target market. Sobrang totoo to. So, yun yung point niya sa people. Planet and sustainability, profit, value for many, yung purpose, community is our immunity. Tapos yung 4Cs naman is yung craveability, community, collaboration, and creativity.
Ang daming acronyms, taglines, catchphrases, pero lahat po yun napaka no? Kumbaga ulitin ko, galing po yun sa karanasan. Parati natin pino-point out dito, no? You don't have to learn from your own experience. No, makikinig lang po tayo sa mga tao na-experience na nila yun, no? No, and yung wisdom, no? Iba yung wisdom sa knowledge. Iba, mas mataas pa yan na antas, no? Kumpara sa intelligence, sa wisdom yung binigay sa atin ng bisita natin. And paborito ko din yung sinabi mo, community is immunity. No? It's about building a network of people, collaborators, competitors, no? Medyo mga tang twister yun, pero ibig sabihin, layo na po nung dinat na nating panahon prior to the pandemic to what we have right now, no? From being hyper competitive dati, no, yung parang dog eat dog, no, lahat bagong concept, I want to try, hindi. Ang mahalaga ngayon sa tao, as we will see later on sa insights, no, about the sentiments is yung brand trust, no, yung mapagkakatiwalaan, no, kasi yung pera bago mo pakawalan ngayon, talagang pag-iisipan mo ng gusto. So again, no, great points from and again, you can watch the episode again. Pwede po yan i-replay. No, pwede po yan i-replay and pwede nyo pag-usapan, no? And if you marami nagme-message sa akin, we try our best to answer them, no? Nagugulat sila, libre po pala, no? Akala nila, how much is the registration? Sabi ko, no, hindi po, you can watch it for free. No, you can watch it for free.
Ayun.
Nakompleto na ba natin? Nakatatlo na ba tayo?
Oo, nakatatlo tayo. Parang ang pang-anim Oo.
Ngayong gabi, no? Again, nandiyan naman po sa ating screen. No? Kanina pa kami excited. Nandito na sila. Si Boss Martin Peñaflor, of course, the CEO of Tangere Pinoy Surveys. Sikat na sikat. Maraming hatak ngayong gabi yan. Si Boss Martin, maraming nag-aabang. Isa na dyan si Pichi de la Cruz ng Unilever Philippines. No? Unilever Food Solutions. And of course, my favorite person, no? Na nag-guest dito. Talagang gustong-gusto ko yung vibe nito. Ika nga yung aura, talagang maliwanag. No? Yung tao, may taong ganun Pag dumating sa kwarto, dala niya positive energy. Vibe, ang tawag namin sa restaurant dyan, yung bounce, no? May bounce, no? And napaka-talinong tao po, no? I respect this person. Yung mga insights niya, when he delivers it, sobrang humble ng pagka-deliver, pero hitik na hitik po, no? Ang daming laman. Of course, Mr. Adam Crane, no? Advocacy Lead and Editor-in-Chief ng Ion. So, tatanggalin ko na itong karatula natin para yung mga actual na tao na yung makita. Ganda gabi sa inyo, mga kaibigan.
Hello.
Good day, Romel.
Good evening, Coach Romel and Cheryl.
Sige, diretso na tayo para Kanina pa nila inaabangan. Naka-ready na yung mga ballpen at saka notebook eh. Let's share the screen and yung pag-uusapan po natin ngayong gabi, yung last week, pahapyaw lang po yun. It was part of the whole report and now we will go to the whole report and maraming insight na isi-share sa atin ang Iyon at ang Tangere. Sige po, take it away.
Martin, did you want to say anything while I start the screen share?
Sige, thank you, Adam. Thank you again, Sir Romel and Cheryl, for allowing us to present here tonight sa show nyo, sa Resto Coach. What ang papakita namin ngayong gabi ni Adam is our report called Quarantine at 1. So, ito yung ginawa naming survey 1 year after the pandemic happened. So, we asked yung mga katangere natin ngayon na nanonood, hello po sa inyo lahat, ano yung sentiments nila about pandemic, how they cope with pandemic, ano yung mental health nila, and so on. All of those items i-represent silang lahat ngayon ni Sir Adam. So, take it away, Sir Adam.
Right. Thank you, Martin. Magandang gabi po sa inyong lahat again. Thank you very much for the very warm introduction. It's always a pleasure to spend my evening with you all. So as Martin said, let's waste no time. Let's go right into it because it's been one whirlwind 2020. It's still a whirlwind in 2021. Let's find out what people have to say about it. This is a more detailed explanation of what Martin was able to summarize in just 1 to 2 sentences. We do want to showcase this kasi alam na natin na 6,000 Filipinos, that's not the entirety of the Philippines. Siyempre, kung may 7,000-ish islands, we have more than 6,000 Filipinos in our beautiful country. But what we want to really show here is that 6,000 is still quite a lot of Filipinos. And so even though we have issues na baka hindi siya completely accurate, it's still statistically significant enough that everyone watching can really get something that is useful and can be taken home with them. And to kind of further this point, I really wanted to showcase this na we have really targeted the whole Philippines in the survey. We can see, for example, in the row at the bottom, oo naman, 27% ay galing sa National Capital Region. Pero titingnan din natin na 51% ay Luzon, Visayas is 12%, Mindanao is 10%. And I mean, we can also kind of do the math na 27% are whole NCR, yes. So ibig sabihin mas madaming tinarget from the whole region of Luzon. I want to showcase din na yung age bracket, yung pinakamadami are the Gen Zs. This is very important for everyone watching kasi sila ang future natin, hindi ba? Kung hindi ngayon magiging customer eventually kasi they are the ones inheriting the world that we've created. So it's very important to take note of what they are saying throughout the survey kasi they will become our customers if they have not already become our customers. The gender, it's more people who identify as women than men, but this does not necessarily come out as importantly as in prior surveys that we've conducted. So there's still kind of an importance. We'll talk about that a little bit more the further in the presentation I get. While the majority are single, we can also see that there's no shortage of people who answered the survey who are in families, whether these are families with children or whether these are families without. And what I do kind of want to underscore is how much or how little, as the case may be, money these respondents are making. It might seem like it's a desperation. I mean, tingnan natin, yung pinakamadami are in 10 to 50K, and that's per month, I believe. But at the same time, these are also the people we really need to be listening to. Kasi yung pinakamayaman ng Pilipinas, wala silang problem. I mean, not wala silang problema, pero hindi sila kasing affected sa mga nangyayari sa atin, hindi ba? So it's really wonderful that we're really getting the insights of those who are immediately affected by the things that have been happening for the past year and the 5 months that have followed it. Because these are the ones that are really drastically affected compared to those who are a little bit more comfortable, who have the ability to kind of bounce back more easily. So enough about that. let's begin with a very let's begin on a positive note, joke. The first insight that we have to share is probably not news to those who are watching, that we asked the Tangere respondents to really kind of describe their feelings after a state of a year of lockdown, and the majority responses are not exactly positive. Yung pinaka popular na sagot ay kalungkutan, followed by katakutan, yung mga nababagot at nanghihinayang. And this is not really, no one really has the right to judge any of this. There's nothing quite happy about being in quarantine. I can't think of anyone who is thrilled that we had to shut down our economy and start it and shut it down again and start it. Us in the restaurant industry were so negatively affected by this. What fools would we be to say hindi tayo malungkot or hindi tayo matatakot? We have every right to be malungkot. We have every right to be natatakot. And I do want to clarify though that we did not only survey we did not only survey those in the restaurant industry. So this is a very comprehensive sadness and a very comprehensive fear. In fact, it's a bit interesting na may 16% na sumagot na nasasabi sila may natutuwa, but we don't know very much why that is, but clearly they're outnumbered by those na malulungkot at natatakot.
Very very interesting siguro, no?
Mhm.
I don't know kung paano mangyayari, no. Biglang pumasok sa isip ko kung paano natin ikukumpara to pagka sa ibang bansa ginawa tong mga survey na to. No? Same question for other countries, no? And kasi generally ang Pilipino yan eh. Ang sentimento natin, maganda yung outlook natin sa buhay, no? Malakas yung support groups natin. So, as much as you can see that it's 56%, I'm interested to find out sa ibang bansa kaya. Di ba? Ano kaya ang lalabas na sagot dito, no? Given yung reputation nating mga Pilipino na masayahing mga tao.
I'd like to ride on that perspective. Whenever they share something here in Malaysia, na palagi kong sinasabi, ay, wala pa yan sa amin. Bakit kayo malungkot? Meron na nga kayong sistema, meron kayong tracking system, meron kayong gano'n. Ang dami nyo pa nirereklamo, subukan nyo sa amin. Okay pa kami. Just be grateful.
I'm actually also, in a way, I'm kind of impressed because in my experience, and I think we can all agree, we're not the most honest about our emotions. So siguro yun yung dahilan kung bakit may sumagot na nasasabi ko natutuwa, kasi natatakot sila aminin na may problema. And it's a cultural shift that we'll have to make. And I'd like to believe na dahil may 56% na walang takot sabihin na malungkot sila, we're getting there. Because this is one of those cases where in a way, you're the one that looks ridiculous if you don't think nothing bad has happened during the past.
Well, I think, Adam, dyan din pumapasok yung kahalagahan ng binanggit mo kanina na malaking bahagi nung nag-participate sa survey ay yung mga Gen Z.
Yes.
Diba? Kasi napakahalaga nun na yung malaman natin kung ano na yung kultura ng mga Gen Z, di ba? And kanilang mga pananaw sa buhay.
Yes, I agree. So again, we asked people to say what really has changed in the past year. And so we can kind of see that the immediate responses of those who answered, it's a bit more in the way that their day-to-day life has changed more so than the dramatics. Not that the dramatics are not important. We'll see actually this later on in the survey. The most immediate changes are what come to mind the most frequently. We can see, for example, yung pinaka-popular na sagot is yung hindi tayo makakalabas. And that makes sense because it's the essence of who we are as Filipinos. We're a very mobile people, a very mobile culture. For a lot of us, our office offered more amenities and comfort than our homes. I include myself there. So it makes sense now can no longer leave the house is the most popular answer. Para sa mga Gen Z or yung mga nag-aaral pa, there are new ways of studying. We now can't, attend school physically. We are now attending school through Zoom or
Naputol yata si Adam. So habang hinintay natin siya bumalik,
Nawala yata si Adam, sir.
babatiin muna natin yung ating mga regular, no? Magandang gabi sa iyo, Erwin Lancero. Good evening din, no? Great evening. Charlene Sarmiento, PJ Veloso, Cecilia Baile, Jan Malyari Agaceta, Generos Lagata Guatno, Chef Jude de Guzman, magandang gabi rin sa'yo. Ayan, nakabalik na si Adam. So,
Adam.
Adam, ayan.
Ayan. I shall
Naputol siya
return.
kanina.
Kita ba?
Yes.
Okay? All right, let's try this again. Apologies. So as I was mentioning, the most popular answer is that people can't leave the house, and those who are studying have clearly had to relearn how to learn. The third point here is probably the one that's the most relevant to the restaurant industry if we think about it, kasi we've had to adjust to new ways of working. Everyone, or most people, I won't say everyone, most people are now working from home. The hours have shortened. The pay is not what it used to be. And so this can go either way actually for those in the restaurant industry, because oo naman, hindi kasing laki yung budget for dining, whether it's in or out, as the case seems to be changing from day to day in the Philippines. But at the same time, because now everyone is working from home, we cannot necessarily predict as restaurants kung kailan yung peak hours natin, because now everyone can order whenever they want, whatever they want. Basta it's within our scheduling. So
If I may add, Adam, no? Sorry, Adam, no? If I may add, no, yung sa point number 3 na na-obserbahan namin, yung geographical din, yung kung saan mismo nag-o-opisina. When you say kasi work from home, merong nakapaloob na dynamic siya na yung Metro Manila daytime population. No, yan ang malaking pagbabago talaga na ramdam namin, no, na marami na simula last year pa lang, no, bumawas yung daytime population ng Metro Manila. Yung mga umuupa, nakatira sa Metro. Because, if you cut the workforce, no, Makati, Ortigas, no, BGC, and other commercial business districts, ramdam namin yon na ang tinamaan talaga, lunchtime, ang tinamaan talaga, weekdays, no, yung weekends, iba, no, paiba-iba, no, depende sa restrictions, but ramdam na ramdam yan, tama yung sinabi mo, na yung paglipat din ng tao sa ibang uri ng trabaho. Kasi ang napag-usapan natin kanina behind the scenes, no, sinasabi nga natin, ang mga nagre-recruit lang ngayon, nag-hire mga restaurants, no, supermarkets, groceries, BPOs. No, so maraming mga nagtatrabaho sa araw, ngayon nagtatrabaho na sa gabi. No, merong nagnenegosyo sa araw, and when you talk about business, hindi yan normal hours ng kain. Kasi para ka rin nagtatrabaho sa restaurant pag may online food business ka eh. Ang peak mo yung yung lunchtime, no? So tama ka, no? Nag-shift yung oras, day parts, nag-shift yung week parts. Tapos yung population mismo, yung density ng population nag-iba, no? Like if you see yung Cavite, Laguna, dumami tao diyan eh. No, Bulacan kasi nagsiuwian, no? Na-disperse. Hindi na kailangan pumasok because of, the lack of public transport also is very evident. So yung number 3, hindi lang, kumbaga yung 34% na yan, marami pang naka-layer dyan na mga pagbabago na siguro hindi lang na-express ng mga sumagot, hindi na-capture nung responses nila, pero nakapaloob yun, no? Yung nakarelate ako dyan sa point number 3 na yan.
Absolutely. Yung point number 4 dyan, yung started an online business, I'll actually talk more about that in the remainder of the survey. We can also see some really unfortunate things that there are Filipinos willing to admit na may nagkasakit or, worse, may pumanaw dahil kay COVID-19. And I can only hope that and pray that if we do this survey again, that hindi siya, tataas yung percentages dyan. Yan. We're not one to just sit down and let the sadness, wash over us. We've also engaged in coping mechanisms, and it's no surprise to many of us that while we're stuck at home with family, that the family has become our support system. Now that people have to work from home to be safe, bonding time is not restricted to Sunday. It can now be any day. And this can bode well for us as restaurateurs. This can mean that we're extremely busy. It can also mean that we're not able to handle the new business, which could be a good or a bad thing. We can also see that many of us are taking to TV, to Netflix, to iFix, to YouTube and other platforms because we have extra time to do this. We don't have the We don't have to, for example, as you were saying, Sir Romel, we don't have to allot for 1 to 2 to 5 hours stuck in traffic anymore necessarily, because we don't have a commute. And so there's more time to devote to binge watching our favorite shows. And with this, ako, kumakain ako habang nanonood. So there's still kind of things to think about in terms of areas of opportunity. Same with the immersion in social media. Kung wala kayo sa social media, wala kayo talaga sa mundo. So kung hindi pa kayo nagtayo ng page for your restaurant, ewan ko kung ano ang sasabihin ko sa'yo, tayo ka na lang. So it really needs to happen, especially as we can see more than half of the respondents are immersing themselves. Yeah. We're not saying gawa kayo ng full-fledged campaign at invest in, boosting, but if you have the means, whatever you can to kind of make social media work for you. Yung pinaka nami-miss is magsimba, but as we'll see this will be an interesting insight that we'll talk about later, kasi that's the most popular thing, is that people miss going to church, and of course, going to the malls and traveling to places. Hindi na tayo makakalabas. So what we miss the most is the opportunity to do just that. As Filipinos, we're a very relationship-based culture. I don't want anyone to assume that we see, kasi for example, yung barangay LGU is quote-unquote only 37%. I don't want us to think that that's necessarily a negative. I think it just means that when people really think of kung sino ang nagbigay tulong sa kanila, ang unang pumasok sa isip is really the family and the friends. It doesn't necessarily, and that's fair to me. If you were asked to ask me, when I'm struggling, who helped me, my unang sagot ko hindi gobyerno. It will be, nanay, tatay, best friend. So it's showing how emotionally, how we're built on our emotions and on our relationships.
Adam, I'd like to add dun sa yung sa coping mechanisms. I think a layer of it yung sa spending time bonding with the family. Kasi minsan ang bonding natin is as long as we're together. Pero I have a feeling dun sa 71%, big part niyan pagkain. Kasi that's what, di ba, it's meals eh. It's what we share with family. I think kasama rin sa coping mechanisms yun dahil I'm pretty sure in social media, dadalawa lang ang nangyari sa taong na lockdown, either tumaba or pumayat. So I think it pasok din siya dun sa nangyaring lahat ng shift natin dito.
Agree.
Very, very interesting conversation that I have I had actually with people dun sa mga tindahan ng appliances and yung mga online businesses, and talagang malaki yung binibiro ko nga si Chef Lau dito eh. No? Sabi ko, ikaw yata nagpalakas ng La Germania, sabi siya. Pero yun nga, yung insight from the friends in the industry is that yung mga items related to cooking ang bumenta talaga, no? Yung mga tipong hot pot, no? Yung mga sariling home cooking na sangyup, yung mga mini fryers, no? And of course, ang pinaka-popular na pinipilahan ng pandemic, mga baking tools and and appliances. So.
Sa bahay namin may bagong cast iron skillet.
Yes.
Wow.
Naman. Ang bigat niyan, ayoko. I can't lift it. So yun, I mentioned earlier that it was puzzling that people they miss going to church the most, and the reason why I mentioned this is because we can see hindi sila natatakot pumasok sa simba. The column on the left, I apologize, medyo messy itong slide. The column on the left is what they are still willing to do kahit may pandemya. We can see na kahit may pandemya, 55% may gusto pang magsimba. Kahit
dagdag ko dyan, Adam, my brother is actually a pastor, no? And throughout the pandemic, napakataas ng clamor ng mga parishioners niya or ng flock niya na magkaroon ng face-to-face. Despite the very clear guidelines on how much percentage lang yung pwede pumasok there. Talagang yung messages niya talagang malinaw from the parishioners that they want face-to-face, no? Whereas parang I think it's also indicative nung sinasabi nga natin kanina related dun sa tendencies ng Filipino how to deal or to cope.
right.
No? May kaugnayan dun sa slide na yun, eh, no? And syempre ngayon with ang kahit naman anong sakuna ang inaabot ng Pilipinas, yan yung natin talaga eh. So I think it's related to that.
Absolutely. We can also see just how strong the trust-based relationships are, because 54% still feel like they can visit the homes of their friends and relatives, even if the degree to which this is safe has been, very hotly debated, and more people believe it's unsafe than it is, safe. Yung mga willing sumakay ng jeepney, bus, and MRT, this can actually be interpreted many ways, kasi alam na natin maraming walang choice.
Totoo
Yung
yan.
kailangan
Totoo yan.
pumasok pa sa work, edi wala akong choice kung di mag-jeepney ako, wala akong kotse, or and so we can say they're kampante, but we can also say, well, kung wala kang choice, edi sakay ka. So that's something to also think about. The thing I want to kind of zone in on, maybe I should have put this in bold. Tingnan natin yung 14% na natatakot kumain dun sa resto and bar. And so the knee-jerk reaction there is to be afraid as restaurateurs, but we can also see na kailangan natin mag-pivot because of everything that's been going on. So tama naman, it won't be as feasible to do the in-restaurant dining, but there's no reason why we cannot shift to deliveries of food or home-based services. And the reasons for being afraid to travel to other countries or abroad are quite evident. We can see the enduring fears, and this is again, Romel, Cheryl, Martin, and I have been really talking about emotions and love and heart as a foundation of the Philippine culture. We can see kasi if we look at the list of the fears, what tops the list are losing family members more so than the inability to pay off utang or to even get COVID, the negative side effects from the vaccine, the failing of business. These are not as important as the possibility na mawawala yung mga minamahal natin. So it's a very intense time to be living. It's problems we can get through, but it's a very intense time to be living through. And the intensity of this time is further demonstrated by how no one's really thriving financially through this, at least from the people that I talked to. 65% said that expenses rose. I think that's very humble, to be perfectly honest. It would be less surprising to me if the number were 90% or even higher than this. 58% were forced to be thrifty, and 48 find it more difficult to pay their debt. 46 took a pay cut or have lesser income than before. We did bring up last week, I think it was Cheryl who brought up that financial security and financial literacy in the Philippines is we've never really been winning awards for this. So the percentages might reflect this. The question becomes, does this reflect COVID, or does this reflect how we have always been? And so we can say, for example, oh naman, COVID lang to, because that's how we asked the question. But we can't say for sure if Filipinos, when they read the survey, that's how they were thinking about this. But what we know for sure is that the financial situation right now is not as good as it could or should be. We can see na madaming naghahanap ng pangalawang racket, madaming nangungutang pa, at maraming wala na yung savings nila, which is scary. It's equal. I don't want to put the blame on everyone for having financial instability, and I know Cheryl doesn't want to blame anyone either, but it's still something that it's difficult to do when we're living day to day, and disasters. I mean, we have 7 typhoons a year if we're lucky, and so it can be very difficult to do long-term planning when you can't have long-term goals, because day to day is our long-term. Ito yung parang yung silver lining natin, and it's kind of sad to think of it this way, but we have to kind of glean out potential areas of success. Surprise, surprise, kumakain tayong lahat. The top 3 monthly household expense items is overwhelmingly food at 94%. 64% of utilities, and the payment for the loans and the debt at 32%. And while these are positive things for us in terms of the restaurant industry, and food is really it's our unique value proposition, we also see that the ability of Filipinos to pay for our services is probably not going to be as strong as it was in 2019, because of an overwhelming 81% of those na sinurvey natin have no savings whatsoever to report to us. And so this is kind of, it's a kick it or, it's a double-edged sword. Madaming kumakain pero madaming walang pangkain sa tingin nila. So how do we go about this? How do we navigate this world that we're inhabiting?
Well, kanina, just to add to that insight to that thought process or yung conversation na to. No? Kanina sa meeting namin, we discussed an article regarding the recovery ng restaurant industry sa Amerika. No? And how, how we're very interested about what's happening there because ang feeling mo naman, ano lang yan 1 or 2 years delay, depende sa rollout ng vaccine sa atin. Kung ano nangyayari dun, yung mangyayari dito because ganun yung pattern, even in regards to politics, no, but that's debatable. But I'd rather focus on the restaurant industry, no. And amazing yung numbers sa kanila, especially for casual dining, nasabik talaga yung tao, no. And they're saying already yung exact dates like May 15, New York's going to go back to 0 restrictions, no. June 15, California is going to go to 0 restrictions, no, and so on and so forth. So even ngayon pa lang, no, even places like Chuck E. Cheese, no, na talagang bawal na bawal ng pandemic, na punong-puno ng tao and because ang isang factor na wala dito is yung stimulus package, no. Nagbigay ng ayuda doon, yung ayuda ron malaki, no. Saka malaki yung coverage, no. So ginagastos ng tao. Pero sinabi din dun sa same article from the Restaurant News, no. Ang real challenge is right after they spend all of those ayuda. No? Kasi the reality will sink in that they have to work again, they have to find jobs, and ito yung pinapoint out mong dalawang slide na to, lalo na ito, no? Tama ka, may silver lining because hindi mawawala sa pagiging essential yung food, no? And right now, the number of people, the percentage of people, very interesting to find that the exact number nor a survey about that is gano'ng karami nagluluto pa rin sa bahay. Kasi nung unang onset ng pandemic, mataas yan, pero nabawasan yan eh.
Yeah.
Because people had to work within their homes, no? And yung daily grind ng tao, mas sumaba. Imagine mo, nawala yung sinasabing 1 to 3 hours of commute. And then, pag gising mo, all it takes is 15 minutes, depende kung nagsisipilyo ka, naliligo ka.
Game or you can yung video mo.
Sa laptop mo, game na yan eh. No? And sometimes, hindi rin nagiging mindful yung mga companies na pag nasa bahay, they also deserve to have a break or a stop time. No? Hindi porke nag-work from home, dire-diretso na on call. And yun yung mga bagay na dapat nating sundan. No? Because ano to eh, may next chapter pa itong mangyayari. Itong mga manifestation, itong walang savings yung tao. So ang tanong ngayon, gaano kabilis magkakaroon ng opportunity to provide employment? Kasi itong mga taong to, hindi naman to tamad eh. But nagkataon, wala silang pera, naubos. No? They're raring to go back to work. Pero ang tanong, anong trabaho yung bibigay sa kanila? So yun yung napakahalagang aspeto, no? And pasensya na kayo, medyo passionate ako sa debate ito kasi may kaugnayan to sa vaccination eh, no? Yung usapin sa vaccination na vaccination is not an issue by itself, no? Maraming kakibat na issue yan eh, na pag hindi tayo nagpabakuna, paano tayo maka-recover yung economy natin, no? And eto na nga, no? Nakikita na natin 81% of people has no savings. Day by day yan, no? Day by day. Paycheck to paycheck. And alam naman natin na ngayon hindi bibihira yung kumpanya na nagbibigay ng same rate as prior to COVID because of cost-cutting measures as well, no? And then yung pag-pivot din ng expenses sa bahay. Kasi yung utilities, tumaas talaga yan. Because nagstay ang tao sa bahay, online classes, laptop, no, gadgets, Netflix, sabi ka kanina, no? And electric fan, aircon, sa mga medyo nakakaangat-angat. So, nag-iba yung dynamics and mag-a-adjust ang Pinoy. But at the same time, how many opportunities for employment? Hindi po lahat ng nagnenegosyo magtatagumpay agad yan sa first try, no? Nasa first cycle na ng mga nagnegosyo, Boss Martin, yung last year na mga nakakakwentuhan natin, ang daming nagsimula ng negosyo last year. Ang dami doon na wala rin ngayon. By this time, bumabalik sila sa paghahanap na ng employment. Because sabi nga natin, hindi ganun kadali ang mag-transition from employment to running a business. Lalo ngayon, napaka-hyper-competitive ng online. Yung dating competition sa brick-and-mortar restaurants, lumipat sa online yun eh. And the barrier to entry sa online is wow, very significantly lower. Napakadaling mag-start, no? Pero ang tanong, how do we sustain? So all of these things put together as are, form the context of this. Itong mga slides na to, yun sinulat ko sa notebook ko eh. No, and we're taking it as a challenge. No? Excited kami na bumangon yung industriya para makapagbigay kami ng tumulong tayo dito sa front lines ng pagbibigay ng employment. No? Kung ano mang creative ways, no? New business models, no? Kung saan ang opportunity, mag-i-evolve tayo. But, looking at it positively, at least. No? Diba?
Absolutely. And these are all interrelated issues. That's what I love about what you just shared, Romel. We cannot talk about saving the restaurant industry without talking about a national vaccination program. We cannot talk about a national vaccination program without talking about the economic status of the country. And we cannot talk about the economic status of the country without talking about the restaurant industry. And so it's all interrelated in this really interesting way, and in a way it kind of encourages everyone to not be single issue thinkers. And we'll actually see that there are no single issue thinkers in the Philippines, which is it's wonderful to be so multidimensional. And we'll actually see this later on in the survey. Another interesting thing, perhaps it's an area of opportunity para sa mga restaurateur. For those who are in debt, many have expressed interest in working harder, and significant amount are also creating new businesses or having a sideline. And so whether this is something that can be explored by those who already have started restaurants or are interested in expanding what they have, their home-based businesses or their deliveries, because many people who are struggling or need financial assistance have expressed the interest to kind of diversify what they're doing, and this can work in our favor. Unfortunately, after the mga 40%, kung tama yung mental math ko, after yung 40% na nakahanap ng bagong racket or mas malakas magtrabaho, we see that there are people who have just willing to admit wala silang magagawa, they will not be able to pay, or mangungutang pa, which, as we know, slippery slope. It's not something I would recommend. But kung wala kang choice, unfortunately, wala kang choice. Or to simply be more frugal. So again, it's not the best of times for restaurateurs, but there are still areas of opportunity. What is important is we are very sensitive in the way we communicate our opportunities to others. That we don't intend to just make a buck off of them, but that we intend to empower them as they help to empower what we are trying to achieve.
Mm-hmm.
We can see here, we asked yung mga katanghere what are the enduring gaps in services, as well as things that they want to see continue happen even when, not if, we get through this pandemic. And it's interesting because the food and restaurants does not really come out as the top answers here, but it's still worth thinking about as we pivot and as we innovate our food services. We can see, for example, na hanggang ngayon may kakulangan sa pagbabayad ng utilities online. I won't go any more into that because I don't want to get on a soapbox about this. The speed of the internet and the reach of the internet, I mean, kanina nag-drop ako, hindi ba? So we can already see that this is something that still needs to be fixed. Transacting with the government, I applaud local governments that have stepped up, but it's clear people still want, the transaction still needs to be improved, and I'm not going to act like that's not true. And of course, the safe walkways, biking paths, and open parks. So it's interesting because the gaps in services, I don't want to make an assumption that this means people are completely happy with the way that we're doing home services and deliveries, but it is worth saying that the top 5 answers do not include, hindi mabilis yung Grab delivery ko, or hindi responsive yung mga resto sa Facebook nila. So we must be doing something right na hindi naman tayo top of mind sa kakulangan sa tingin ng mga tao. At the same time, I do want, for all of the restaurateurs watching, I really want to zone in on the column to the right, because these are things we really need to keep in mind when, again, not if, we reopen our restaurants. Kasi madaming tao sa Pilipinas ay wala namang problema nagsuot ng mask. Oh my gosh, as a Filipino American, this is one thing I really wish I could bring to the States, is this no apprehension about wearing a face mask. I mean, we're Asian. We've been doing this since before
Very
the
Asian
pandemic.
thing.
Kung may sakit, magsusuot ka ng face mask. Ano pa ba? And so it's things like this that people have no issue doing it. Wanna wear a mask to be safe? Edi magsuot ako ng mask para mas safe ako. And so this is something that people really want to still see happening. As I said, the mandate of a local government is to serve its people. So people want to continue feeling that the government is fulfilling their mandate. So that does not surprise me at all. Mental health at 59%. Again, kung ako, mas mataas yung percentage na yan. COVID really underscored the importance of mental health because now that we have nowhere to go, it's very much easier for us to get deep in our feelings. And with not a whole lot of good news out there going on, whether this is things happening locally or internationally, it's very easy to feel feelings of overwhelming sadness that we might not have ever felt in generations before. And this is okay. I don't mean it's okay that, that bad things are happening. What I mean is it's okay to admit na malungkot tayo. I said it earlier, I'm really, in a way, happy that people we saw earlier in the survey, willing sila, aminin na malungkot sila, because I wouldn't have thought people are that going to be so brave about it. So it's nice to see that people want us to continue paying attention to this. Whether for better or worse, madaming kumakain kapag malungkot. So I don't know if we want to kind of draw that line. I actually wouldn't recommend it. It's kind of a slippery slope din, but it's still also something to think about. We do kind of want to resume face-to-face classes and continue the frequent news updates about the state of the country. We now are having weekly press cons. These have not necessarily been harmful. There's no harm in having even more information. So perhaps this is what Filipinos want to see. This has only been helping us know more about what's going on in the government. So even if we don't have a pandemic, perhaps let's keep it up. Transparency is, of course, a very wonderful value to have in any industry.
Yeah. I'd just like to point out about the gaps. I think a lot of the lines that have been lalo doon sa crossovers, not all, actually not even one have been caused by COVID eh. Kumbaga nandun na yung gap, tapos na ano siya, na-highlight siya because of a pandemic. Kasi gano'n naman ang isang society, di ba? Whenever a crisis comes in, medyo na-highlight yung vulnerabilities. So ngayon, it's more of, okay, we're aware, so at least we know what we can, if that there's something to be done. And then the second point is, I think yun nga yung sa mental health, I think it's a very, very important issue kasi especially for us na medyo third world, di ba? Iniisip natin, ano yan, for privileged yan, mental health. Kasi for a country that lives on 81% walang savings on a day-to-day, physical siya eh. Physical yung piniisip natin lagi. May pagkain ka ba? May bahay ka? O
may stigma eh.
O, di ba? Yung parang malungkot ka. Hindi, dapat huwag ka malungkot. Hindi, wala kang right malungkot kasi may mga hindi kumakain. Hindi naman ganun, di ba?
Maarte ka. Maarte ka masyado Yung mga ganun.
Maarte, oo.
Madrama ka. Yung mga
madrama.
Kinalakihan ko eh. Kasi yung generation namin, mas mababa yung tolerance sa ganyan.
Totoo.
So ngayon, at least with social media, in fairness to social media, yung impact niya, mas namulat yung tao eh. That is alright to discuss yung mga ganitong bagay.
Absolutely. And it's wonderful to see na hindi lang yung Gen Z yung nagsisimula ng discussion. People are aware na katulad ng COVID, mental health does not discriminate based on age, sex, class, or gender.
Yes. Totoo yun.
Ang sinabi ko kanina, I'm happy that we are multidimensional Filipinos. We have always been, we will continue to be so. And this really comes forward when we ask kung ano ang gusto nilang makita moving forward. We can see here to the left, there are just a sample of the thousands of answers that people gave. And from this very small sample, we can see it's not just one thing people want. This is a multidimensional solution people want. Siyempre, madaling sabihin back to normal. Pero anong ibig sabihin ng normal? Ang normal ko ay iba sa normal ni Romel, ay iba sa normal ni Earl, ay iba sa normal ni Martin. But for more clear definitions, there are Filipinos who want us to be more disciplined. There are Filipinos who want jobs to be increased, as Romel was talking about earlier. Economic growth, itigil yung corruption sa gobyerno, magiging maayos ang lahat. It's not all people that are upset with the administration. It's not all people that are upset with us as people. It's not all people that are upset with the economy. The Filipinos are aware that this is not, they're aware of this ecosystem na sinabi ko or sinabi natin ni Romel earlier, yung it's not just government, it's not just restaurants, it's not just economy, it's not just, the people. It's all of these things at once. We cannot say that we have solved the issues of economic growth kung wala pa tayong disiplina. We cannot say we have solved the issues of disiplina kung hindi maayos ang lahat. And so it's wonderful that we can see that there are so many things people are looking forward to, and it's not just one issue or one thing to be solved. And further to that point, when we ask people, what anong kailangan natin gawin para abutin yung 2022 na mas maganda kaysa sa 2021? And it's the same thing in terms of the diversity of the answers. O kailangan maging disiplinado ang mga Pilipino. Itigil na ang corruption sa gobyerno. Be responsible and alert citizens. Maging mapanuri. Take care of your health. Maintain good hygiene. Gusto ko yan. And so we can see things like this. It's not all people that are upset about the way things are being run. It's not all people that are upset about us as Filipinos being matigas ulo or being reactive only and not proactive. It's not just people upset na hindi tayo marunong mag-ipon. It's people who understand that we will need to share the leadership if we want 2022 to be better than 2021. We all have a stake in this, and we all have something that we can do to get to where we need to be in a better way. So with all of this, we can summarize in 4 key points what we discussed earlier. The first is that mental health, or sorry, not just mental health, health overall has become a priority. Cheryl and Romel were discussing earlier that our culture is very bahala na, and this is for better or for worse. There are people who just want to sweep their issues under the rug. There are people who believe that all problems, whether it's systemic or whether it's emotional, can be solved with prayer. There are people who just choose to not address their problems. But the respondents have made it clear that the impact of COVID on our health is an impact that people are willing to prioritize and discuss. And to me, it's wonderful that we're now casting a long overdue spotlight. We can also see that the pandemic has had a financial impact, and it's not been a good one necessarily, but it has also encouraged creativity. Oo naman, napakalaming tao lang savings, pero madami din nakahanap ng racket, marami din may gustong magtrabaho ng mas malakas. And so we can take advantage of this, and we can make what we will of this. Family time continues to reign supreme. The extended family continues to serve as the primary safety net. It was always like this, I'd like to believe, but now it's even more so because we are seeing our families 24/7. And lastly, as I was mentioning earlier, the public health and safety, this is a collective responsibility. Bayanihan spirit has always been part of us, and it really has come out in the way people want to move forward. Juan or Juana de la Cruz does not just want the public to activate. Juan or Juana de la Cruz does not just want the government to activate. Juan and Juana de la Cruz want everyone to activate together so that we can move forward. I know that at the end of the rest of Coach, we always have recommendations, but these are also the ones that we've created. So you can use these if you want. You can create your own if you want at the end of the talk. For the first recommendation, and this is something that we have been doing for the past hour, and I'm really happy about that. Let's continue doing it. We need to just acknowledge and validate what's going on. This is not the time to sweep issues under the rug because the public is painfully aware. If restaurants or people outside the restaurant industry continue their Facebook messaging, for example, or their Twitter or their Instagram, and they act like nothing is going on, napaka-tone deaf yan, and it's not going to work well for your business. Skirting around the issue it doesn't work. This is a real issue. It's affecting all of us. It's not just affecting Filipinos, it's affecting countries around the world. So, and we're not saying to change all of your ads into COVID-related ads, because that's also not going to work. Syempre, coping mechanisms are still eating and spending time with family. So how can I cope if I go to your, your French fry restaurant, for example, and all I see are kung ilan ang namatay sa COVID today, it's not going to work, right? What we're recommending is to validate the ongoing struggle in order to resonate better with customers. To say things, and like just off the top of my head, we understand times have been hard, but we want to still give you a Friday night with your family through our lechon. Things like that. That would work better because you're not saying we can solve all the problems, but we are saying let's get through this together. On
Siguro
that
ang
note, the second
idadagdag ko
recommendation,
yan, Adam,
yeah.
dun sa point number 1. Sa point number 1, yung ano, no, yung like in our case, no, sa buffalo swings and things, no, it can be as simple as keeping the stores open. Kasi the more stores we keep open, and kudos to our franchise partners also for sharing that purpose, the more we make the restaurant accessible, no? And extending hours of operations para yung mga nagtatrabaho sa gabi, we still have restaurants to order from. It's recognizing yung situation ng mga tao sa bahay, that we were a source of convenience and comfort, and it's an accountability to be part of the essential services. Hindi siya pwedeng switch on, switch off mo for your own convenience. Serbisyo publiko siya. At this point in time, it's public service, and to keep things priced reasonably. Kasi sa taas ng inflation ngayon, napakadaling matempt na taasan mo na lang yung selling price mo. But it's also kailangan meron ka ring effort to sabi mo nga na hindi ka maging tone deaf or out of touch. Kailangan maramdaman ng tao that kaisa mo sila. So while we put messages on our paper bags, since April of last year pa, simple messages as we miss you, we're looking forward to seeing you again, keep your wings up. The more tangible manifestations o yung resulta would be yung being there. And number 1 is being there. Number 2 is pinaka-importante, be better. Kasi yung quality ngayon, quality is something that will be a source of comfort. Hard-earned money yan, yung ipon nga, naubos na, and then they're still ordering from your restaurant. The least that we can do is to make sure that, we improve, we introduce innovation that will make them happier. Flavors are, proven yan scientifically that it's a source of comfort pag nakakatikim ng masarap na pagkain ng tao. It's, R&D and all of these things, the creativity is not limited to the business aspect, but more on the things that are tangible to the customers. Siguro ang mindset natin ngayon, yung purpose of making people happy. And one thing that will make them happy is if they see the effort that despite the pandemic, we're not making excuses, but rather we are doing, we're making, doing everything that we can to be better. Yun yung mensahe, quality-wise, service-wise, hospitality-wise. It's the warmth and friendliness pagka yung 10% pinapa-dine in. Nakita mo, it's just, the smiles behind the mask. Napakahalaga po ngayong mga panahon na yan, yung human connection. Despite the physical distancing is the connection, social connection and the emotional connection.
Absolutely. And related to that point, the second recommendation is to, as you said, be realistic about what's happening, but also to be optimistic. I'm not saying that toxic positivity is the solution. When you are feeling sad, you must be honest about feeling sad. But at the same time, many Filipinos have expressed a strong desire to get past what we are going through. So if the challenge I would offer to everyone watching is to strike that sweet spot between being honest about what we are going through right now, but also communicating the willingness to move people forward through what we are doing. And I know it's not as easy to do this in the restaurant industry, but I'm not going to say it's impossible then. I think this is where innovation and creativity really come. The third recommendation is something that is so important, and it's to really partner with a purpose. I mentioned earlier that this is everyone's issue and this is everyone's solution. And what's been wonderful about a lot of the smaller restaurants and all the bigger restaurants alike is a lot of people have really been getting out there and helping the community. I know as Filipinos, we've been talking a lot about how Filipino culture has been helping and hindering our ability to get through these issues. I know also kasi one of the things sa kultura natin is pag may success tayo, mahiyain tayo to share it. And this is one of these things where like, this is one thing we absolutely must share with people, mga restaurateur, is if we are helping the community. There is absolutely I cannot think of any negative backlash that could come from sharing on Facebook that your
No comment.
example ulit.
No comment ako dyan. Baka maano ako eh. Ma-blue tagging ako eh.
But there's only so much, like if you have helped, you know, with a community kitchen, or if you have donated the, like halimbawa, you cook a certain amount of tinapay in your restaurant for a day, and at the end of the day ang hindi binebenta ay ibibigay sa mga walang pakain, edi share mo yan. This is important things for people to know, because we saw earlier na napakadaming Gen Z ang sumagot at napakadaming millennial ang sumagot at sila ang mag-i-inherit ng daigdig natin. There are many Gen Z and millennials, and I actually include myself there, that will not patronize your business if you are not helping the community. Or if they have the option to choose between you or someone that's offering the same thing, the likelihood that they will choose the one that has more of a community impact, it's not impossible. And so I encourage people that, you know, basta you have the means. I'm not saying, you know, go in the red para makapagtulong sa komunidad. But if you have the means to help in any shape or form, do not be embarrassed about sharing the ways that you've helped get through this, because you would be surprised at the thing that what causes a recall for your brand name. It could be that you are helping the community. It could be that you were there for yung mga mahihirap at a time when no other people were there. That's the thing about the consumer. You can never quite, you know, our research is extremely helpful, but you'll never quite know why the specific Juan de la Cruz came to your restaurant. And it could be very well because during the worst of the pandemic, you were out there telling people, yes, this is going to be difficult, but we can get through this together. This is one way to get through it. It's not the only way, but let's all find many ways rather, to really kind of make things work for us, so that 2022 can be not quite the whirlwind 2021 has become, and certainly not the whirlwind that 2020 was for all of us. I'm incredibly grateful to be alive, and I hope we're all still alive from when 2022 rolls around. And so I hope that what we've shared gives those, whether you're in the restaurant industry or outside the restaurant industry, better perspective on how we can get there. Romel, Cheryl, this is the end of the presentation. So if you have any immediate questions and want to go back to any slides, just let me know. Otherwise, I can stop sharing.
Share?
I'm okay. I think lahat ng natanong ko in between naman eh. Yes.
Sure.
Sa akin, yung huling point lang, Adam, I'd like to add to that, and I'd like to thank you for bringing that up. No? Hindi lang po yung tama yung sinabi ni Adam, hindi lang po sa atin sa mga restaurant industry practitioners, restaurant negosyantes, hindi lang naman po yung pagkain lang or pera ang pwede nating i-donate. No? Gaya po ng pinamumunuan namin dito, again, this is a movement, it's not me as a person. The Resto Coach is actually kanina binabanggit ka natin, no? A restaurant community library. No? Pwede po tayong mag-share ng kaalaman kasi po, hard-earned money rin po yung pinangnenegosyo ng mga nag-online businesses, nagsisimula ng mga sidelines, sabi nga, no? And wala naman pong mawawala kung magbibigay tayo ng libreng informasyon gaya po ng ginagawa natin dito. So kung sino po yung interesadong mag-guest, no? Kung feeling nyo, makakatulong kayo sa mga kasama natin sa industriya, welcome po kayong mag-guest dito, no? Every Tuesday, 8:30 ng gabi. And we'd like to take this opportunity, of course, to thank si Boss Martin, very busy guy. Pero he always makes time, no? And siguro bigyan natin ng pagkakataon si Boss Martin na mag-share ng mga insights niya and mensahe para sa mga taga-restaurant industry at in general, yung mga nanonood sa atin. No?
Salamat, Sir Romel. Great presentation, Adam.
Thank you.
Great presentation as usual. So ako naman, siguro maambag ko based after seeing the report, after seeing the data ng mga katangere natin na sumagot ng survey. Ang masasabi ko doon is very resilient talaga mga Pilipino. Nakita ko doon sa data na 30%, 3 out of 10 nawalan ng work. Tapos majority tumaas yung expenses sa bahay. But dun sa 30% na yun, nakita mo na 2/3 nun they found a different way to earn a living. Yung iba nag-online selling, nagbenta ng ano ba yung uso nung last year, yung mga ube cheese
Ubi pandesal.
Campbell, nagbenta sila noon. So nakita ko na very resilient yung mga Pilipino. May mga kaibigan ako na nanggaling sa mga matataas na sweldo, tapos biglang, of course, greatly affected yung industry nila ng pandemic. But they still found ways to support their family. Especially, nasabi nga ni Adam, tumaas yung mga, and based sa data natin, tumaas yung expenses sa bahay. Yun yung masasabi ko ngayon doon sa data. Yun yung insights na nakuha ko from that survey. Thank you again, Adam, for the presentation. Salamat, Coach Romel and Cheryl, for inviting us again to present.
Sige, share. Top 3 takeaways tayo.
Yan. Okay. So, ang ating top 3 takeaways, kukuha ko dun sa mga key takeaways ni Adam at saka ina natin yung mga highlights natin. Of course, 2 years na, actually, magto 2 years na highlight lalo yung health is a priority. Well, also public health and safety is a collective responsibility. From day one na sinasabi natin, protect yourself and protect others. Kumbaga, na-highlight na rin kanina yung nafe-feel ng state of mind ng emotional uncertainty ng Pilipino. Ngayon mo lang actually malalaman na maririnig na may sadness at may fear. And we can see it also in coping mechanisms. Actually, yung Netflix and other ways is escapism because they don't really want to know at one point na parang ano ba tong lahat ang nangyayari. We can see it as an opportunity to lift the spirits up. So that's one opportunity for us. Second one is financial impact has encouraged creativity. Ito yung favorite ko. Kung tayo ang masters of para-paraan. So a lot of good materials, even good advertising or even social media materials are brought about by crisis. So lahat tayo medyo nerve na parang madaling maantig ang puso. So this is an opportunity also to show that hindi again limitation ang kawalan ng budget. Ito siyang opportunity to be creative. And last but not the least is yung partner with a purpose and recognize that the restaurant industry is a public service. Ang favorite line ko there is, it should have value for many.
Value for many. Napakaganda ng mga binanggit. At alam nyo, kinulang tayo sa oras ngayong gabi kaya hindi na natin mababati yung mga nasa UK gaya ni Victor Mempin, yung mga nasa Australia gaya ni Donald Tenorio at ni Chef Jenny B. No? Nakaka-proud po yan si Chef Jenny B na nagninegosyo po siya sa Australia, no? At ng mga baked goods at saka ng mga pagkain Pilipino na pinapasikat nila sa Australia. And of course, di na rin natin mababati si Miss Pichi ulit, di na natin mababati si Chef Junti Guzman, no? Na gumawa ng sarili niyang community pantry. Talagang ang galing nitong taong to. Congratulations at mabuhay ka. God bless you, no? At marami tayong hindi mababati, gaya ni Maria Lencia, no? Na talagang nagsishare si Ronay Romo. Pasensya na kayo, hindi ko kayo nabati ngayong gabi. But of course, no, sabi ko nga, we're blessed. Nandito si Boss Martin, si Adam, and we hope to, of course, have you here more regularly. Maraming salamat sa ginagawa nyo para sa ating bansa and para sa restaurant industry. In behalf of my colleagues sa industriya, no? Maraming salamat. Ang ating pong resto ko ay naangkop because ang sinasabi po natin, yung leadership, hindi man po yan yung isang tao, no? And as leaders, we become great not because of our power. No? Hindi po itong panahon ng palakasan ng power. No? Na although usong-uso yung malakas, no? Pero ang totoo po niyan, lumalakas po tayong lahat pag tayo po ay nag-empower. And ito pong movement natin dito, yung live ng mga palabas ng Resto Coach, i-share po natin para po yung mga nagninegosyo, mamulat po sila. Napakadami po naging bisita na po natin dito na makakatulong sa inyong mga ginagawa. Kung nagsa-sideline kayo, nag-good business, or nagbabalak pa lang. No? Yung mga kwentuhan po natin dito, linggo-linggo, nagbibigay din po ito ng impormasyon, no? At kaalaman sa panahon ng online classes. Parang meron tayong linggo-linggong online class for free. No? At sa mga susunod po linggo, marami pa ito. Next week, ang bisita natin magaling sa airline industry. Na paano nag-adjust yung mga grounded, no? Ng mga flight attendants at piloto. Maganda yung kwento niyan, no? Yung paano sila nag-evolve, nag-adapt. Hindi sila nag-abang ng pagbabalik ng paglipad sa halip. Nag-evolve. At of course, yes, boss.
Sir, pwede ba nating ma-invite next week yung kapartner ko sa Tangere, si Captain Donaire?
Of course,
Yung
of course.
CEO
Para
natin.
sumali.
Kapitan yun sa Philippine Airlines. Maganda mga kwento niya din, sir.
Yes, yes. Total lang, bisita natin isang piloto, isang flight attendant. So, baka maganda po maisama natin si CEO. Magandang suggestion yan, sir.
Sorry,
Recommend na
na-volunteer
natin.
kita, Kap.
Yes, yes, of course, of course. So again, no, maraming salamat po, hindi lang po sa mga bisita, kundi sa mga nanood at sa mga nag-share po. Again, yung 15,000 viewers po mula nung panahong sasampulan po tayo nagsasama-sama. Every Tuesday is a blessing from God and of course, a blessing from all of you. So with that, I say, no, stay safe, stay healthy, and keep your wings up. Magandang gabi po and God bless.
Bye po. Salamat, Adam.
Salamat po.
Cheryl, Sir Romel.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.